hopefully 2025 we could have a conference and we could all collaborate.
I would love that.
As many women businesses we have in the country, just to support each other. That's why we uplift each other.
That would be amazing.
So I usually start with a quote, and I found this message, and I just think it's encouraging because not really you walk up to somebody and they encourage you or they motivate you, or everyone's a bit different, everyone's culture is different, and so I found this, and today it resonated in a way that you could sit in with you and take it with you to reset for the new year.
Oh, lovely.
And it says be authentic. Isn't it weird that so many versions of you exist in people's minds? Some see you as a shy person, okay, who doesn't talk. Some see you as an annoying person who won't shut up. Some see you as a cold or mean person, while others see you as kind and caring. The gist is that the person you think of yourself exists only for you. Only for you. Every person you meet, have a relationship with, or make eye contact with on the streets creates a version of you in their heads. There are 1,000 different versions of yourself out there in people's minds. Can you believe that? There's you yourself. Don't change. Don't change for no one and anyone. Just be authentic. Everyone else will see their own version of you anyway.
I love this.
That's so, yeah.
I feel like it really resonates with me so deeply.
Yes.
Because I think that we're like, and especially as women, we're multifaceted human beings. We're a businesswoman, you're a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. We show up in different ways around different people.
Sure.
And different people also, we wear different hats.
Yes.
In life. And I definitely feel like, there's lawyer Mila,
Yes, and there's you at home, family Mia. And there's extended family, Mila, that you meet when you go back home.
Yes.
So tell us, Mila, where you from and how you originated, because I'm sure the viewers want to know where you're from and how you got yourself into being in the attorney field. And
thank you.
Yeah.
So my full name is Milica Tenji. Okay, so I'm Serbian, and I was born in then Yugoslavia, now the Republic of Serbia. My family came here. My dad came here in '93 during the end of apartheid, and my mom and my sister and I came here in '94. So I was born there, and I came here when I was 2 years old.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. And because I know when your mom was saying like you're here for many years, and 30 years, I was like, where you been? Like,
30 years.
Part of South Africa.
So I'm very much a Serbian South African, because
Yeah.
we're still very connected to our roots. We speak the language, we uphold our traditions, and we go there often. We're very connected and tied. I mean, I only have my dad and my mom in South Africa. The rest of my family is in Serbia.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I love being like, I feel South African too.
Of course, you literally brought up here, and that's great to hear, and that's great
and
to
what a
have.
privilege, South Africa took us in when no other country would. Serbia was under sanctions at that time.
Yes.
So, and two countries.
Of course. So there should be a community of Serbians in a way here.
There is.
And you got friends, and you guys.
We used to. I used to do Serbian folk dancing. We were part of a Serbian cultural organization called Skud. And that was so beautiful because there was like a little group of us that we would, we've even traveled for dance. Unfortunately, because of COVID, that we stopped, and we all kind of disintegrated from after that. But so there is a small Serbian community as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. And now, so I see you in the legal field, and there's so many different challenges that South Africans right now are facing and going through, and I think the biggest or highest rate is the divorce rate. And I like, we were just talking the other day, and like how many couples really go through this on a daily basis, and some of them don't know where to turn to and what process to go through, and what is the way, if you're going through this and you're facing this challenge of a divorce, and it's something, yes, people say it as a negative connotation, but it's real life, it's reality, and if it's a way better for you out there, then it is. But it's that, and then I know we're speaking about the ANC.
Yeah, so that's like one of my specializations, is the antenatal contract.
So maybe tell us more about the antenatal contract, and when people get married, what do you look for? And
so I'm a notary public, so we can notarize the antenatal contracts. The ANC is a legal document that gets registered at the deeds office. It's a binding contract and must be entered into before you get married. So if you don't sign this ANC, and it can be done literally just before you sign your marriage certificate with your marriage officer, so it can be done on the day you get married, but it must be done before that. So I would never advise a client to leave at that last minute though. And if you don't sign this contract, which unfortunately a lot of people don't know this, is if you don't sign it, you're married in community of property.
If you don't
sign,
automatically goes.
The default system in South Africa is in community of property, and that obviously, I'm not a fan of that.
I hope we're hearing all of this.
I'm not, and we often get, a marriage officer contacting me saying, "Hey, we have clients that lastminute.com, because unfortunately they just don't know about this, and I'm not a fan of in community of property because your estate, so two individuals become literally one joint estate. And the pro about this is, for example, if one is a homemaker and they're not going out growing their estates, they're taking care of the house or the children. So in the event of a separation, they have equal rights to that estate. But the downfall is that if one of them passes away, you are administering one joint estate, so you're paying executor's remuneration on the whole estate. If you haven't set certain things up, that joint estate could be locked, and the administration process in South Africa unfortunately it takes a really long time to administer.
So it's a very good sort of educational awareness for the young couples that's actually getting into marriages and want to get married. It kind of has to be mandatory that they go through these coaching, financial sessions, and rather than going for counseling, because this is quite important, equally important.
As part and parcel of the journey down to the aisle, and I definitely think that some form of counseling, I think people don't take enough time to even get to know themselves before they walk down that journey, and hence why there's so many divorces, And just onto the topic of divorce, I think my advice to anybody that would be going through divorce is just take a moment and pause, before you go and rush and before things get ugly. There's a lot of the time there's children involved, and it's very unfortunate that they use the children as a pawn in their vicious game. And I think that take a pause, take a breather, both go for counseling, get a mediator. There's other ways to do it, and
before you make that big decision.
Yes, because I can tell you right now, divorces are really expensive, and you could be a couple that are have a really good foundation, a good life, and that separation actually puts you into such financial strain afterwards that you're worse off separated than you were together. And that's absolutely an insight for us to know that, because when you do get those days, when I'm saying those days in our times and in our parents' times, and they don't know it wasn't allowed to think of this. ANC wasn't even in the way, in the talks. So now that it came as a law enforcement of going that route rather than the COP, now that we got to educate our kids more, like, hey, when you're getting into this,
look out for this, because you don't want to get into debt, and you don't want to get into, and if it's debt, you both are in the debt.
Yes, exactly. It's a joint estate.
Joint estate, yeah.
And you know, there's two types of anti-nuptial contracts. So you have straight out of community of property with the exclusion of the accrual system. And for a very long time, there were only those two matrimonial regimes, in or out. And both ANCs give you protection against creditors. So if one of you get indebted, they can't go after the other. Your estates remain separate at all times. And unfortunately, they saw that there was a disadvantage for some of the spouses within that marriage, because now you have no claim. Your estate, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours.
Yeah.
You know. So then later on, they brought the accrual system, which allows you to potentially have a claim against the spouse with the larger estate. So it will be the difference between the estates, which is a calculation that you would do. It gets a little bit complex. I'd be happy to go.
And then speaking about that, maybe take us through the will, you know, because with all the estate planning, you need the will, right? Drafted. And I think the viewers out there will know, like, some of them have will, some of them don't, but it's mandatory and it's important if you have a family to have a will.
So if you get married, first thing is your ANC, make sure you get one. And then second, and this is actually what I do with my clients at the end of our ANC consults. I run them through, you know, ask them, do they have a will, and explain to them a little bit the administration of an estate so that they understand. It is very important to have a will in place if you have any assets in South Africa, and especially if you have any minors inheriting from your estate, because if a minor inherits interstate, their money will go to the guardian's fund, which is the guardian of children, and they will hold on to that money until they turn 18. The natural guardian for that child can apply to the guardian's fund, which is held by the master's office in South Africa, for like allowances, but there's also a cap that you can receive, and the interest earned on that money, for example, is very minimal. A minor cannot hold assets in their own capacity, so you want to actually protect them, and in your will you'll create a testamentary trust. So you can obviously create an inter vivos trust, which is while you're alive, and set up an estate plan and put those structures in place for a minor in case something happens to you. But you can also put it in a will that should you pass away and a minor is inheriting anything from your estate, their assets will go into the trust. In your will, you've already selected your trustees who will take care of it. You'll state what the trust will be for, which will be for the maintenance and the well-being of the minor child, and you can elaborate. And also it's important to put in who nominate a guardian for your minor child. If you and your partner both pass away, that's really important. And a lot of you can nominate your executor in your will. My advice to my clients is always either nominate someone that within the industry that does this for a living, that administers deceased estates, because it's quite a complex and difficult system with a lot of laws involved and a lot of tax involved.
And how long does this process take? Because I know it's sometimes years.
Yes, so we've had some issues with the Master's Office and SARS issuing, like for example, Master's Office issuing letters of executorships. Just takes really long time. They're sorting their problems out now. It's getting a bit better. But that puts a huge, and you cannot do anything on a deceased estate until you have the letter of executorship. So
is that something you can fast track, or you've got to do it only afterwards?
So you complete, when someone passes away, you'll find their will, you'll see in their will who they have nominated as an executor. And also just so that the viewers know that the executor is compensated up to 3.5% of the value of your estate, right? And I always say to my clients that you should nominate each other so that you can go and choose who your agent will be to assist you, and then perhaps negotiate on the fees, because 3.5% on some estates can really be a large amount. It is a lot of work. So I always say, you've earned that. But and also you have the letter of executorship holds a lot of power and authority to do a lot on an estate, right? You don't want it in the hands of someone that you don't know, right? And you want to change your agent. So for example, I would advise that your husband and you nominate each other. Then you would get the letter of possession in your name. You nominate, for example, me as your agent. I will do the process for you, and throughout the process I'll stop and say, okay, this is where we are at, please sign this. You know, I can't do anything on the estate without your permission.
Yeah, so you've got a tracking process, and you just make it easier for us to say, okay, where we are at here and where we are at. Okay.
Yes.
And that's all the advanced tools now, I guess. But,
and you asked it can take several years to administer a deceased estate, and we can't release. If you need money from the estate, we'll need permission from the master's office to release it. For example, if you need maintenance throughout the process, for example, and then we need a letter from SARS confirming that there's nothing owing, so it's a SARS clearance certificate, and then after that we would be able to officially release all the funds, because you don't want to land up in a situation where you owe money and you've paid out all the beneficiaries, and then nobody wants to pay SARS. So that's generally the safest time to.
I think everyone knows the SARS where SARS is involved, you've got to have to pay them. And then speaking of that, it's, you know, what made you go into this? What made you say, okay, Millie, I'm gonna go into attorney, and this is gonna be me, and look at where you are now. It took a while for studying, you know, but what was that, you know, change in mindset?
My dream was to be an air hostess. And I did it. And I did it. My parents backed me with that.
Look at it.
And I worked for One Time Airline for a year, and I didn't know what to study. Because I wanted to study while I was flying, you know, so I had a backup plan.
Yes, sure.
And my parents said to me, they suggested law, because growing up I was my sister's advocate. She was very soft-spoken, and I was the one always like fighting for our rights. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, I'm doing my passion, which was, you know, air hostessing. I was like, okay, cool. There's obviously a talent that they see in me that I don't see within myself. And I started studying it part-time while I was flying. Good. And honestly, my backup plan became my career. And I'm so grateful that I listened to my parents, because I love it. You know, I'm actually really happy to be within this industry and doing what I'm doing. So that was a really good decision.
That's great.
Listen to your parents.
Of course. And then you don't know where, like I say to my girls, like, it's fine, you know, just take that gap year. You must know what you want to do before you get into that study mode. You know, take the gap year and travel and see what you want to do, because in your case, look at that. You never know where your career lies.
And it was never forced.
Yeah.
There was always a natural flow to it. You know, like, I think if they had forced me, I would have been so resistant. But they were like, hey, why don't you do it? I'm like, not bad.
Yeah,
you know?
and you got the right fit for it. Look at you. So buying a property is sometimes also devastating, because, I know I've been through phases in that. And what's the easiest way you can maybe share with the viewers, the easiest way to what to look out for in case of some tips to buy the property and the process?
Okay, so I'm a conveyancer as well. I assist with transferring property. So when a person is buying, the seller would nominate the transferring attorney. What a lot of buyers need to understand is that when you're looking at to purchase a property, you need to understand that you will also be responsible for the transferring fees, the attorney fees for that property, which is based on a tariff, so the value of the property. Generally, most conveyancers work according to that tariff. It's like a guideline. And then also, where some people forget, is that there's a tax called transfer duty payable on the purchase of a property, which is also responsible for the purchaser. So when you're buying it, you're not only looking at the purchase price, you're paying the tax and the transfer fees, and anything over 1.1 million rand is taxed. So if you buy a property under 1.1 million rand, you won't pay tax on that. Another important thing to also remember, for someone that's purchasing a property with a bond, they'll also be paying their bond attorney fees as well. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize what it all entails. And then also for sellers, what they must remember, that if they are selling a property, they must pay the clearance figures, which is generally 3 months in advance.
Yeah.
And you get a certificate once that's paid. So the seller also does have some cost that they have to.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've got rates and taxes and
that
to
is the
clear out.
The 3 months in
it
advance.
was in one of the townhouses I purchased, and the name of this person on the tax, it was the rates and taxes. It accumulated for like 5 years, and we didn't even know this. And I had to just make sure one day the letter eventually came to me to say, hey, your unit is owing. And it was not transferred on my name. So sometimes the estate agents, they miss out.
Shame, I think so. In that instance, I don't know if the estate agent would have known. But another thing is that for a seller that's found themselves in a situation where they can't afford to pay those clearance figures, but they will be receiving that purchase price eventually when on registration, you can apply for bridging finance, which is like finance. There's several companies that offer this, which is like interim finance for a short amount of time. There's obviously high interest on it, but that bridges that gap. And a lot of people also don't realize that when you buying a property and when you sell it, it is the both parties' responsibility to go and open and close their COJ accounts, for example. It's not part of the transfer process. We do offer it as a service, but a lot of people want to go to the municipality yourself. You go and you close your account, and then the purchaser will have to go open their account.
Yeah, I know that happened.
So that obviously didn't happen in your situation.
No, that was like the first townhouse when you.
They do a recon, and the seller will sometimes actually get a refund from the city of Johannesburg because you pay so far in advance. There might be a little bit of a difference coming back.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing how much of insight when you get to know when you talk to someone like you. We could have had you a long time ago on the podcast, but I think to close the year, it helps a lot of people,
especially
in the circumstances they are in right now that we covered.
I think going into silly season, I think the biggest thing is to have a will in place. Yeah. Because to pass away interstate, a will gives you that freedom of gestation. You can set, you're protecting your family. You're putting your wishes in place so that you can give everything to your spouse. For example, there's a lot of estate planning that is involved as well. I think that maybe a lot of people don't realize that there's a death tax that you pay. It's called estate duty. So anything over 3.5 million rand, you pay a 20% tax on. Right? Yes. And then if you have an estate over 30 million, you pay 25% on everything over 30 million rand. But at the moment, and I have to say at the moment because tax laws always change, as surviving spouses have rebates from SARS. So if you inherit everything from your husband's estate, for example, you won't pay any tax on it. But if your children inherit it, anything over 3.5 million rand is 20% tax on. So then you would want to perhaps plan around that and say, okay, cool, give everything to your surviving spouse, and then maybe she can every year donate 100,000 rand, which is the donation.
Slowly, there's some kind of tips where you can think about.
But if you don't have this will in place and something happens, you can be
torture.
And there's so much is out of your control, and unfortunately, the worst comes out of people when people pass away. So having a will in place kind of governs what will happen with your estates and how to wind it down.
Yeah, it's just to avoid all of the clutter and burden.
You're protecting your family really, and put one in place. Let your family know where it is, and create a binder with all your important documents in it, so that let your executor know or have a copy, so that it just eases that process. because it's a long process, it's difficult, it's quite hard on the families involved. So if you have a binder with all your bank statements, just to give the person administering your estate an idea of who to contact, where to start, what's in your estate, it will make their lives a lot easier.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get the household in order. You know, so thank you for that. So tell us, what is your day? How's your day planned? You get up in the morning. Tell us how you manage your day. Maybe some other entrepreneurs would get some.
Yeah, so obviously being a business owner, you must be very disciplined. We're actually talking about it off air. My day, I start my day by training in the morning. I go to gym, come back, and then get ready for the day. Then I'll go to the office. My assistant's generally there before me, and then I'll start my first see my first clients or get into work that I have, my caseload, and then by the end of the day I try to finish it around 5 so I can go to yoga and close the day off with a good yoga session.
Good.
Because that's like just to quiet the mind.
Yes, of course. You need some kind of sanity for the day. And you know, I mean, we have beautiful gardens where we are, so we take a walk in the garden for sanity and just a relief for air.
Yoga, I really stay by
that's
yoga.
That's good. Yoga is absolutely good. I know I do the Pilates every week, so that's also quite stimulating. You just that you get to a certain age, and then you, as a woman, you just need to start eating healthy and now preparing yourself mentally and physically. And you feel that. I mean, you get to my age, but yeah, you feel that.
And being in the industry, I think anybody that's within the legal industry can relate. It's very stressful and it's very demanding on us mentally. So at the end of the day, I go there, I sit on my mat, and it just quiets down. By the time I get home, I'm like, okay, ready for the next day. You know, we have all these tools available to us.
Don't tell me. And then, what are your biggest sort of challenges as an entrepreneur? You're fairly a younger entrepreneur, and you look up to the ones that's had this journey. I think you started the journey, but you're doing well. You have challenges. What are some of the challenges you can share with us?
I think one for any entrepreneur will always be to get work in consistently. So that's obviously the first challenge. The second, I think, is to have a good environment around you that's supportive, that you have a mentor in place. Like I had a mentor, that Advocate Harry Meyer. He was amazing. He admitted me as a notary and a conveyancer, and he unfortunately passed away. So to have people, if you're on your own, to have people around you, and also within the legal industry, to have contacts, to be able to assist you at all these municipalities or master's office, and to have a good community. And then within the legal industry, the challenges are the delays, having to explain to some clients that stuff is really out of my control. And
sure, I can imagine you got to be also guarded and all the time, because you're the kind of middle person in a way. Yes, you do have your clients, but you got to get through the process to get to them, and you got to explain all of this. It's also not an easy industry. And you're speaking about the mentor. My mentor as well had passed away, and she was just dynamic, in terms of this. And you've got to have processes and how you react or you respond, type of thing. Don't just react, just take a deep breath and respond, and how you respond to this, because you're dealing with emails every day and clients on the calls. So I'm sure that your mentor as well, I mean, he's also left, but he probably told you stuff that nobody would have, or nobody would share. Being an attorney, you don't want to share your sort of tricks or your the tips of the ins and the outs.
So to have someone that you can call late at night when you're stuck in a legal matter, and they would be willing to support you all the time. But thankfully, what I've noticed within the legal community, we really do help each other a
Yeah.
lot, which I'm very grateful for.
Great.
But for someone to be able to spend like a good hour with
Hour.
it's like that's billable time.
Valuable, valuable.
Very valuable.
And that's why your circle of friends, you know, it goes back to your circle of friends. Is it valuable for that hour or the 2 hours, or you know, it's an exchange of what is it, the venting, or is it listen to me, I've got this, but valuable in terms of when it's business orientated.
Yeah.
What am I going to get out of your business versus my business? You know?
And I find another challenge, I think when you're on your own, like I'm a sole entrepreneur at the moment, is having that guidance on how to scale it, to take it to the next level, on how to grow, you know, to have a mentor that not just within the legal industry, but also business-wise, to get
expand.
To, you know, because there's a lot that's behind that too. You can only take on so much alone for so long before you have to start growing. But it's not something that's just
Definitely,
common knowledge.
It's not, because your business mindset, and when you network, and I spoke to you about this before we just started, and I said the networking is so important, because you don't know who you meet in these network functions, and that's where it's like, oh, okay, can you come collaborate with my company? I need you. I need someone like you. You know, that type of. So that's where you connect. When I say connections, and you know, we have these women in business events yearly.
That must be amazing.
Yeah, look out for those, and yes, I'll share with you. Okay, I've got a lead for you, and you know, there's the company where they need your expertise. So that's where we are in Women in Business, and I think your industry is just a lot of challenges, fun too, and it's important to the country. You know, it's important to families out there. But anyway, let's get to the fun part. We spoke so much about this, and you know.
And I hope that I was able to help
Oh,
you.
yes.
So actually, we didn't even get to the divorce.
Yeah, no, we can touch on a bit of that if you missed out that on the divorce side. What are the key maybe we could face, the issues that we need to face, and then how do we outcome?
Like I mentioned, take a breath. You know, I think that there's entering an era where there's new ways of doing things, and don't try and kill each other in the process. It's not going to serve you in any way. Obviously, get a good attorney, but understand that, like, generally, what is in a divorce, what you're doing is you are untying your lives, you know, that are so tangled like a
entanglement.
It's an entanglement,
yes.
you know, and there's so many areas within it, and the main areas of dispute is if you've got children, your contact with them. So you need to get within your divorce, have people that can assist you and guide you on how to do it, so the best parenting plans to put in place so that it's not so impactful for your children. You know, the type of marriage you've entered into, whether you had an ANC or not, to separate your estates, the division, you know, hire a mediator, for example, though they can really assist in settling matters amicably without it being a lengthy process. So you sort of have to like plan these things. I would assume. I think the way that I'm explaining is like in an ideal world. When it happens, it's really ugly.
Well, for me, it goes back to the personalities that people are.
It's so much more complex than
so you
just
get
that,
the two personalities in the home.
Yes.
And I'm more the understanding, while the other one is more like you get. I'm sure you know you've been through that where the couples, like, you know, doesn't work out well.
The ideal situation is if you can co-parent with, you know, peacefully, and you know, go see a therapist. Like, divorces are so difficult on people, and I think that they don't get the help that they actually need even throughout that process. And I think that when you choose to separate, perhaps separate for a little while, like actually separate before you institute divorce proceedings and get lawyers involved. Obviously, unless it's not possible.
I think that part gives you time to even think.
I think so many people start fighting it out and throwing letters at each other. It doesn't serve anybody. just actually separate and give yourself a moment to breathe.
Take the peace.
You know,
Get in the peace, but that's the mindset. That's where, and as I say, it's the personalities clashes.
Because a lot of the time the attorneys are just sending letters back and forth, and the clients hate it because they're like, my legal fees are exorbitant, but your attorney is involved in every single thing that, you know, he's doing this, she's doing that, I'm upset, you know. And you know, it's a lot of it's a psychological
look, to
thing.
be honest with you, there was a situation, I know that you know, it could be with the neighbor, and it could be the neighbor has an issue with your home or your wall or something to do with you, and that's quite tricky, because you as an attorney in the middle now, and each time you got to go and represent yourself in court, you get paid, you know, because it's time. It's time and it's valuable. And to be, you know, to be in that situation, it's either what you sort it out in amicable order, or you just, you know, you're going to have to pay your lawyer all the time and to take, because people say, okay, I'm going to take you to court to this, and it's like, hey guys, there's much more valuable time on earth than going there, but you know.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to try and resolve any disputes amicably. Send just a letter. You know, I mean, if a client comes to me, I'm not going to just take their matter to court straight away.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and resolve it amicably for them, which is going to start off with the letter.
Which is your times too, you know.
Of course, you know, and I will do my best. For me, that taking to court is the last
option.
Yes, because that's when your fees rack up. I promise you. So you must try to resolve it. And there's so many, you know, a lot of people don't realize that there's CSAS, there's mini tribunals, there's ombudsmen. You know, there's so many other small things available to them that's outside of just running straight to court. Yeah,
so very quickly, I hope I'm going to explain this, but the CSAS, are they for the homeowners? Issues if someone, you know, you're the trustee in a complex, and somebody, you know, that doesn't pay, you know, from the 16 units that didn't pay their bill, and what happens then? Because is it sitting at the courts now because it's gone to judgment that he didn't pay, or we are carrying, the 15 units is carrying him, okay, that he didn't pay, and in this case, what do you do? Because then...
So, I hope I'm understanding you correctly. You know, obviously you'll have your body corporate, which will then send him a letter of demand. The community schemes ombudsman, it's an ombudsman, so you can take it there to them and see whether they'll assist in that situation. If they aren't able to, then you would issue a summons against them. The courts want to see that you've gone to any like tribunal or ombudsman available to you before you just rush off to court, because they're so inundated with work. And it's obviously more affordable if you do go to them. So they have their own jurisdiction of matters. So I think that you would be able to try go to them first, and if
they don't help,
and they'll give you a ruling, which is generally strong.
Great stuff. So what's your favorite food?
Moving on.
What's the favorite food?
I think would definitely be like a good pasta. Anything.
Oh really? Pasta?
Yeah, like with olives, sun-dried tomatoes, exotic mushrooms.
Lovely. Oh, that's And the favorite Serbian food? Well, share with us.
That's a tough one because I don't eat meat anymore, so there goes all the Serbian food.
Okay, straight to the mum and dad.
No, I mean we have such great food. So would have probably been sarma, which is when I used to eat meat, it is mince and rice wrapped in sour cabbage.
Right.
And that's very tasty.
Oh, but interesting.
I'm more limited now to desserts.
Oh, great stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And so, tell me, what's your biggest fear?
That's a.
Well, I know in that industry, but then it's a tough one.
I think, sure. I think my biggest fear is being stuck. I think, for example, if something were to happen within South Africa, we hit a point where things were so unsettled and being stuck in like literally the rug being pulled from underneath you. I think that that fear became a big, like many people's reality, like with COVID, for example, where they lost all their income, weren't able to put anything, cover their rent. I think that is my biggest fear, is being stuck in a situation like that.
You got to be independent and save as much as you can, and that's
something's happening in the country and I'm unable to leave, or
because that goes back to some citizens have this where I would rather rent than buy property, and sometimes I sit and I think, like, what is it? Is it better to have your property or rent it out? Or you've got kids, they can take over your property because it's there for them. But 100 years time, you paid for something that's not even yours. If you think about it. This house is going to be 100 years, and then I don't know who's going to take over, but you paid 30 years for the bond. And that's the little thinking that the next generation has to have. It's like, okay, I have a right to sell my house's property right now.
There's so many pros and cons to both of them, and you have to look at like the inflation and the pro on buying a property is that if you haven't planned correctly, at least when you reach retirement, you can maybe sell that and you've got some money left, or you don't have one less thing to pay, right?
Yeah.
But there's also the aspect where you'll look at it and say, okay, cool. It's actually better for me to put that money in an investment account and have it grow because the interest is so high.
Yeah.
So there's, and also your children can get something.
Look, it has
so many ways.
So many ways, and you don't want to not leave anything.
Yeah, and there's so many people that do say now that renting is better than buying.
I think they're also scared to, as you're saying, the fear of the purchasing the property, and then anything happens in the country, we can pack up and go. You have your emergency kit ready.
I mean, for me, for example, just to add on to that, is I've specialized within South African law. So if something were to happen, like I had to leave the country, because I mean, there was a time where people were really uncertain about how the states of our country. Now, like, things seem to be on the mend. But I mean, we were having load shedding and so much uncertainty. If I would just leave, I would have no career because I'm so specialized in law. So to just go to another foreign country, I would be starting it from absolute scratch. Yeah,
because now that you're also at a point where you could, you can even train the upcoming, law students, and you in that field training, you can go into and open up your, MEAS attorney training. That's the section, that's.
So we have candidate attorneys. After you've practiced for a certain amount of time, you could get a candidate attorney, which is someone that's finished their law degree and now they're looking for practicals. And in that sense, that will be like almost like an assistant. I'll be training them for them to become an attorney.
You're gonna be a mentor. There's it, the attorney mentor. So share with us before we close, how can the viewers get hold of you? And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of calls and reach now, social handles, where they can find you, your website, and then I'll also put it on the YouTube link as well.
Yes, we'll put it in the YouTube link. I have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, Milica Tenji Attorneys, MT Attorneys.
MT Attorneys.
Yes,
okay.
Or Milica Tenji Attorneys. We'll have to put it in.
It's M-I-L-I-C-A, Milica Attorneys.
Tenji, T-E-N-J-I.
Yeah, T-E-N-J-I, okay.
And then my contact details are on my socials, and we can put the link in your description.
Perfect, that's awesome. And we're going to have you again on the show for the new year, I'm sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Thank you for your time.
Milica, and we'll see you soon.
It was such a privilege to be here.
Awesome.